How's it going, folks? Robbie. Welcome back to the channel. We're back on Forza Horizon 6 today. A lot of people wonder in this game, what is the best drag car? What car is the best top speed? And what car gives you the best lap times on rivals and to win the most online races? Today, we're not going to worry about any of that crap. Today, we're going in the completely other direction. We're going to find out what is the slowest car in the game. So over the last week, I bought every D-Class car I could get in the auto show and some in the auction house. We're going to find out what is the slowest. So I've had the absolute pleasure of driving every single one of them. So I brought them all here to Colossus. We're going to do a few laps of each car, which explains the long video. No, just joking. I did bring the Pill P50 here just out of curiosity to see how long it would take. Answer is it's a long time. Make sure you got a good audiobook going in the background. But yeah, I've made a purpose-built track. We're going to be showing off the cars. So one by one, here is the top 10 slowest cars in Forza Horizon 6. Starting off our top 10 list of slowest cars is the mighty 2013 Wuling Sunshine S from the Happy Lands of China. Did a lap time around here of 2 minutes 13. For comparison, a stock standard Mini Cooper all the way back from 1965 did a 2056. So it was a good 8-9 seconds faster around here compared to this horrible minivan from China. The sad thing is, when I was doing some research on this car, in the real world, this is one of the highest selling cars in China over the last 20 years. It is cheap, it's relatively reliable for a Chinese car, but in Forza, unless you upgrade it, it's a piece of crap. That's why it's number 10. It's just horrible. We got this back in the DLC on Forza Horizon 5 days, and for some reason, they tortured us and carried it back over. Got a 1.2 litre 4-cylinder engine, 84 horsepower of fun. Got a 5-speed manual gearbox, which is pointless because around this track it hardly works at all. It takes a really long time to build up any power and speed. It is not the best thing. It's got rear-wheel drive, but it's just not a playful car. I don't know why they brought it back into the game. It's very slow. As you can see, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is just under 16 seconds. Quarter mile, I had to do quarter mile on all these cars. 20.6 seconds to do 1 quarter mile on this car. Top speed will eventually get to 135 k's an hour on my test track. Oh god, this thing is torture to drive around here. The brakes are terrible. The gearbox is just one of the worst in any car I've driven. It takes so long to get up to any sort of speed, and every time you change gear, you just drop so far out of the power band. It's just around the corners, it's just horrible. It just oversteer and understeer. It's just the weight transfer is just, as you can see on screen, it's horrible. It looks crap. It sounds horrible. It's just Playground Games. Why did you bring this back and make me drive it again? Sure, with some upgrades, there's a Forza Edition car, which is kind of cool, but stock standard, it's horrible. It makes it an alright drag car once you throw some parts on for a laugh, but stock standard. Don't do what I do. Don't torture yourself. Just delete it. And the 9th slowest car in the game is this 1982 Volkswagen pickup LX with a time of 2:15.1, nearly 2 seconds slower than the Wuling Sunshine, which is not something you want to be proud of, but it is. Obviously, it's very slow. It's made the list, but it's actually one of the slower cars I kind of like. In a way, it's not a great car to drive. It's very slow. Clearly, it's made the list, but with some upgrades, it's really good fun to drive. It is small and compact, but we're talking about the stock standard car here. What can you say about it? It's also known as the Caddy. It essentially will start as a Mark 1 Golf. It slowly got evolved and turned into a little compact utility vehicle, what Australians down here would call a ute, or a pickup in America or wherever else. It's obviously made for tradespeople or small business owners. Being from Germany, I can only imagine what this thing would be like driving full tilt down the Autobahn in the 80s. Would have been a terrifying sight as BMWs and Mercedes just rocket past you. Heck, even trucks would do the same thing. Now, in game, it's got a tiny little engine, 52 horsepower from a 1.6 litre engine. Not a lot of torque, but one thing it's got on the side is it's under 1,000 kilos, so it is kind of agile for what it is. But yeah, the lack of power really kills it. 0 to 100 is 22.8 seconds. That's 100 kilometers an hour. That is slow. top speed 121 kilometers an hour down my 5-kilometer test track. That is horrible. Now, for braking from 150 k's an hour, just out of curiosity, this car did 73 meters to stop, which is not great. I forgot to mention earlier in the Wuling, because I'm very professional, that did 89 meters to stop. That is dreadful. Some of the worst brakes on a car in game. But with some upgrades, like I said before, this thing turned into a fun little thing to drive, and I've seen quite a few of these modded up and taken to drag strips at various places on the map. It's funny to watch it. I'm looking at doing a purist build of this in a couple of days' time. It's a fun little car, but out of the gates with no upgrades, it is dreadfully slow. The gearbox takes so long to find the power. Yeah, there's no upgrades available. Add it to the list of cars you probably would not drive again. That is the Caddy. Alright, in eighth spot, we've got another pickup, and new to the series. This is the 1994 Honda Acti, a little K truck from Japan. This thing is pretty cool, as silly and stupid as it is. There's quite a few upgrade options for it, but we'll talk about that in another video, maybe when I do one on it. But just talking about this stock standard little thing, it is a K truck from Japan. The vehicle's obviously got to fit Japanese restrictions on small engines as well, and the dimensions as well, to make it very agile and nimble around the tight, busy little Japanese sideways, and to lower tax and registration costs. I can't talk today. Now, the Acti's got a tiny 3-cylinder engine, 600cc, 37 horsepower, but it's got a 770 kilogram body, so it's, as you can see, it's got a little bit of punch out the corners. It just lacks any kind of top end speed. 108 kilometers an hour is the fastest you'll get this thing down without going down a hill. Oh my God, 0 to 100 is 24.7 seconds. That is not good. 22 seconds for the quarter mile. Let that sink in. For 1 quarter mile run is 22 seconds flat. That is dreadful. Braking for 150 k's an hour, 73 meters, so it's one of the better braking cars here. Obviously that helps because it's so bloody light, but that needed a long downhill trip to get up to 150 k an hour, let me tell you. To drive around here, like I said before, it's quite punchy out the corners. It's really small and light, so it's very agile. It just lacks any power, but it's one of those silly cars. When you put on some parts, and obviously with some of the body options you can do to change what the looks of it, it's actually a fun little car to drive. Even around here, this is probably one of the better overall cars that I drove. It is slow, I'm not going to avoid that, but it's still kind of fun. And the fact that you're driving a pickup the size of a shoe, basically, it's a lot of fun. It's it's definitely a car that is going to stay in my garage. I think I'll just get it out every now and for shits and giggles. Just drive around Hakuba or something for a laugh while everyone's driving around their time attack cars. But yeah, that is the Acti. It's a cool little car. What else can you say about it? It's slow, but it's kind of fun. It brings a smile to your face. And in 7th place, we have one of the all-time legends of motoring, the most recognizable car in the world by far. You go to any country in the world, show them this picture, they'll probably know what this car is over anything else. This, of course, is the 63 Volkswagen Beetle, the first generation Porsche 911. Did a 219.6, a second and a half slower than the Honda Acti. But anyone who's been in a Beetle in real life knows that these things are not fast, but they're not really designed for it. But like I said before, they're probably one of the most successful road cars ever made. I don't even want to know how many tens of millions around the world of these cars have been sold. It's truly incredible. And thanks to scenes in movies like Herbie, one of the most iconic cars ever made. Now, originally made in Germany before World War II, the Beetle is obviously a very famous car. It's affordable, reliable, but it's also got a pretty good racetrack reputation for hill climb, rallying, especially off-road Baja racing. It is pretty cool, and thanks to the amazing stories we got from Forza Horizon 5, I learned that these are a taxi in Mexico, so thank you, Playground Games. But in-game driving this thing stock standard, she's a little bit slow. 40 horsepower from a 1.2 litre engine. Weighs under 800 kilos, so it is pretty light. It's got a very short wheelbase, so it is pretty agile. It is rear-wheel drive, so you can have a little bit of fun with it if you've got a real technical track, but upgrade-wise, it needs a lot of work. There's a little bit of oversteer, as you can imagine, especially like a Porsche 2 with the engine right down the back axle. It can sway around a little bit, but there's 40 horsepower. If you spin out in a Beetle, you might want to go back to driving school. So 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 22.8. Not great. Quarter mile time, a little bit quicker than the Acti, 21.8, which is not that bad. 132 kilometers an hour top speed. I can only imagine the sensation of doing that in the real world. Braking for 150k an hour is probably some of the best in this class. It did it in 55 meters, which is up par there with some of the modern hatchbacks, which is pretty good. I love a Volkswagen Golf. I don't care if they're slow in the real world and make a shitload of noise. They're just that cool car. On my bucket list, I want to drive one of these before I die. I probably struggle to fit in it, but I think I'd enjoy it for 5 minutes. What a legend. And in 6th place of the slowest cars in the game from 1932, this is the Ford Deluxe Coupe with a time of 2 minutes 20.2, so about 8 tenths of a second slower than the Volkswagen Golf. Now, this thing is a bit of a legend in automotive history. Known as the Deuce Coupe, is one of the most affordable cars of Ford's at the time. It's got the flathead V8 crank engine in it, 65 horsepower, which is nothing compared to what a V8 can throw out these days. Back then, that was quite impressive. Obviously, this is most famous for being basically the granddaddy of hot rods. I don't mind a hot rod. They're quite cool to look at. I've never driven one, so it might be pretty cool to drive in the real world. Obviously, we can convert this into a hot rodding game, which is pretty cool with some body options. But to drive around stock standard, I love old cars. I love the styling. They're just works of art. They're just absolutely beautiful. But yeah, obviously for the time, 1932, you can't be expecting the speed and performance of a regular car, which you get these days. Let's go through the performance figures. Like I said, it's got a V8 engine, 65 horsepower. Just weighs just under 1,100 kilos, so it's not that heavy, obviously. But 0 to 100, 16.6 seconds, which compared to what else we've been driving so far, isn't too bad. Top speed 143 kilometers an hour, which is all right. Braking, 93 meters to stop from 150k an hour. 93 meters, I'm pretty sure that's one of the worst braking cars in this game, but braking and suspension systems weren't exactly advanced back in the 30s. We have come a long way. Like, to drive this thing in game without any upgrades into it, it's all right. It's got really bad steering, as you see. There's a bit of understeer. You don't really get oversteer problems. It's a rear-wheel drive, but there's not really enough power to have problems. I think the main issue too is it's got pretty tiny wheels, so you do struggle for grip. It does slide around a little bit. Some of the corners on this track are a little bit tighter than the most tracks you'd find on a Horizon event, which is why I built it to test out the cars. And this one kind of struggles. It's seriously lacking some power. It could do with some anti-roll bars, better suspension, but it's still one of the icons of the hot rod scene. And next up on the slowest car list is, of course, the 1972 Reliant Supervan. I can't look at this thing and not laugh. This has been a joy of mine to drive since we got it back on Horizon 4. It's so much fun. However, just quickly, it did a lap time of 2 minutes 20.6, so it's 4 tenths slower than the Ford Deuce Coupe. I don't know what they've done to this car in game because, as you can see, now this is, fairly complex going through the S's here through the warehouses at the airport. Not once have I rolled the car. Back on Horizon 4, you needed stabilizers to get this thing around a corner. And I was throwing this into some of these corners, and not once did I roll the car. I don't know what they've done to the physics in this game or the modeling to this car, but it's pretty hard to roll the thing over stock standard. It tilts. You can see it tilt, and it affects your driving. It affects the power going down to the road as I ran out of breath. I don't know what they've done to this car. It's not as fun to drive. I like the fact that you could roll over at any minute. even to this one. This is a pretty quick corner. Back on Horizon 4, you're going over. You're doing a Jeremy Clarkson. All your crap and your cigarette lighters hit the window. But in this game, it's almost sensible, which makes it kind of boring. Now, in the real world, this thing is obviously a bit of a legend because it's a bit stupid. It is a three-wheeler. That was done, obviously, to avoid... it was officially classed as a motorcycle to get it into lower your taxes and your insurance, I believe. I'm not from the other side of the world. This is obviously made in the Isle of Wight in Britain. It's pretty good. 32 horsepower. It's got a 0.7 litre engine. Very light because it's made mostly of fiberglass. Under 500 kilos. 0-100 kilometers an hour is 18.7 seconds, which is, yep, you get there eventually. 20.5 seconds on the quarter mile, which is just one of the better ones I've driven in this area for D-class cars. 125k now for your top speed. Can you imagine the noise of driving this thing at that speed in the real world? However, the brakes, for 150 k's to 0 for a car that weighs under 500 kilos, took me 95 meters. That is by far, I gotta think, I haven't tested every one of them, but that is one of the worst braking cars by far. But that's the Robin. Shame it didn't roll over. Alright, we're finally up to the fourth slowest car in the game. I told you this is going to be a long video. Probably should have done this testing on a smaller track, but hey, this is what we did. And in fourth place, we've got the 1968 Abarth 595 SSSSS, which is a D100 class. Did a time of 2 minutes 20.8, 2/10 quicker than the Reliant Robin, whatever you want to call it. This car is pretty damn cool. Even in the real world, I love the look of these things. They're small and compact. It is old school Italian styling from the 60s. It's just one of the best small cars ever made. Now, it started its life as a tiny Fiat 500. Carlo Abarth worked his magic on it and turned it into one of the coolest little rally cars and even hill climb cars. This thing actually in real world, when stripped down a little bit and converted into a race car, actually performed really well. It's tiny and agile. It did really well in hill climb in the 60s because it didn't have to slow down for the corners. Just like down here in Australia, in the 60s, the Mini Cooper won a lot of events down here at Bathurst purely because it was light and agile. Same goes for the Abarth on screen. It's an incredibly agile car, but it's not very fast in the real world as you'd expect. 28 horsepower from a 0.6 litre engine. That is pretty bad, but it weighs 570 kilos. So as you can see on screen, while overall it is slow, I can't help grinning. I love these cars. They're just another car I'd love to drive even just for 5 minutes. They are quite agile. The steering on them is pretty responsive. I'll give it that. It's got an incredibly small wheelbase, as you can see and feel. It's got half decent acceleration in these smaller corners, but on a straight line, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is 28 seconds. You get there eventually. So yeah, quarter mile is 22 seconds flat, which is not great. In a long enough road, you'll get to 118 kilometers an hour in the top speed. Braking, 150 k's down to 0. For a tiny car, it's not that great. Is 87 meters. Now, I understand from my research that Carlo Abarth actually gave these cars away for free to certain drivers. If they won the events they raced them in, which is a pretty cool incentive to actually try and perform. With some upgrades, these turn into a really fun kind of C-Class rally car. Heck, even a sort of road car. What a legend. Alright, the third slowest car in Forza Horizon 5 is the 1963 Volkswagen Type 2 minibus, camper van, combi, whatever you want to call it. Scrub away the smoke of bong smoke on your windscreen. Get over the 60s because this is one of the all-time classic camper van, minivan, bong smoking, hippie smoking, surfer cars around the world. These things are in production for such a long time. I could not believe it when I found out. They were still making them in the 80s from my understanding. Oh, this thing is slow. 2 minutes 24 flats, which is 4 seconds slower than the Abarth. What can you really say about this thing? They're just like the Beetle. They're everywhere. Everyone knows what a comfy van is or a Type 2, whatever you want to call it. Everyone recognizes them. Someone who used to do a lot of surfing when I was younger back in the 90s. You saw a lot of these down on the beaches, surfboards on the top, usually a mattress in the back where some surfers found one of the local girls. Yep, you can imagine what goes on in the back in that one. So, It's basically the similar engine you get in the Beetle. It's an air-cooled engine, 50 horsepower. It's a little bit heavier than the Beetle though, obviously with the size of the thing, 1,140 kilos, but with the size of the van, it's still pretty light. It's rear-wheel drive. Now, performance figures, hold your breath. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 25.6 seconds. That is taking you quite a while. Quarter mile, 23 seconds flat. Yeah, that's not good. Top speed, 116 kilometers an hour. These were not really designed for performance. So 150 kilometers an hour, braking to 0, 88 meters. Again, not great. But if you know anything about these cars, it was not about performance. This is definitely a cultural car, all about lifestyle and enjoying life. It's such a hippie car. But they are, in a silly way, it's a van. But can you find me a cooler looking van in the world to this day? The Whirling Sunshine definitely isn't. This is, I think it's one of those cars I'd like to drive just once, like a few of the others as well. Yeah, in-game, there's some upgrades. It's quite fun. I've seen quite a lot of these maxed out on the drag strip, and it is quite funny watching him take off with the front wheels launching off the ground. But stock standard, she's a little bit boring, I've got to say. Gearbox is horrible. It's down on power. It needs a lot of work, which is why it's the third slowest car in the game. All right, now at number 2, we finally get into the seriously slow cars. Welcome, folks, to the 1957 BMW Isetta 300, another D100 class car. Now, the Combi Volkswagen bus did a 224 around here. This little BMW did a 2 minutes 38.4, which is a long way off. That is over 14 seconds slower. Yeah, welcome to the midget cars, basically. Now, this is from 1957. It's one of the coolest cars in the world, known as the bubble car. It features a front door that literally opens to the front, which takes your steering wheel. The only way to get out of this car is literally stepping out of the car like you've just been given birth to. It is a very unique thing, and if you crashed it, you're basically trapped in it if you go up the back of anyone. Really odd design, but it's incredibly light, 417 horsepower, a teeny tiny little 3-cylinder engine, 0.3 of a litre. Now, horsepower, you ready for this? 13. I have an electric scooter that I ride to work from time to time, and I can guarantee it'll get to 60 km an hour quicker than this thing. And I've tested it. It's pretty quick. Gets there in just over 5 seconds. Now, this thing weighs, 417 horsepower, rear-wheel drive. Now, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. It doesn't make it because its top speed's 89 kilometers an hour. That's the first time I've driven a car in this game that could not do a 0 to 100 kilometer run, which is 0 to 60 miles an hour for those that don't know. Now, quarter mile, 25.1 seconds. You could take one of the Nissan GTRs, go up, turn around, go back, come back multiple times before this little thing's even got to do its first run. It is not very quick, but obviously it was not designed. It was meant to be like a cheap car, especially after World War II era. Post-war, it is a pretty cool little car, but stock standard to drive, it's pretty bad. Braking for 150 k's an hour. Obviously, you can't get this thing up to 150 k's an hour normally. My test track, I got a really long downhill stretch for the slower cars to build up speed. I barely got this to 150 with the whole downhill section. It still stopped in 73 meters, but even with I haven't mastered the tuning of this car yet. I've tried, but it's such a small wheelbase that it's really twitchy to drive. Yeah, there's some engine swap options. It's a fun little thing, but it's not for me. It's cool, but it's pretty hard to drive when it's upgraded. Are we really surprised that the PLP 50 is number 1? Surely not. We have a time around here of the track I built at the airport of 3 minutes 14.6. Over a minute slower than the 10th car, which is the Whirling Sunshine. The PLP 50, what an absolute legend of a stupid car it is. But it is pretty cool. From 1962, made on the Isle of Man. This thing, I believe it's still the Guinness World Record holder for the smallest production car. I know people have made smaller cars, but they're not mass produced and they're not as iconic as this thing. And again, if I could fit it, I'm quite tall. I don't know if I'd fit in it, but after watching Jeremy Clarkson drive around this thing on Top Gear all these years ago, it just made this thing an icon for the younger generation that didn't know these things. They're just absolutely bonkers and I love them. It's got 4 horsepower in a car that weighs 141 kilograms. 4 horsepower is not a lot, but it's quite light, so you got a power to weight ratio. I'm not going to work it out. It's a tiny little thing made mostly of fiberglass. It's basically a little tiny motorbike with 3 wheels. I love these. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, just like the BMW YZ. It didn't make it. Top speed on this thing is slower than my electric scooter. 57 kilometers an hour is this car's top speed. Yeah. Now, quarter mile time. Any suggestions on what it did? 34.3 seconds for a quarter mile run. I didn't even know that existed. My stopwatch nearly shit itself. Now for the braking, 150 k's to 0. Obviously with 57 kilometer top speed, can't do it. Even with my top speed run, didn't work. Even with someone pushing me in another car, I just kept flying off the side of the track. Yeah, I got no idea what the brakes are like, but it's a tiny car. It's got 4 horsepower. What do you expect? I've seen a lot of people convert these into Rivals leaderboard cars for D-Class, and they're right at the top. So I don't know if that's just incredible tuning or they're using outside influence to trick the game into thinking it's better than it is, because most of the time when I test out this sort of car with some power and upgrades, it's really hard to drive. So maybe I'm just doing it wrong. That is probably the way it is. But to drive this thing in game without upgrades, it's quite funny. But it does get a bit boring after a while. You can put some motorbike engines and give it shitload ridiculous power. It can be a fun little drag car. Me and my son like to mod them up and go driving and crash into each other. It is good fun. But it's just, if you could not upgrade this car in game, you probably wouldn't drive it for more than 10 minutes and then it'll just collect dust, which probably will happen to most people who own these in real life. I can't imagine people ever driving these on a day-to-day. But they are a pretty cool car. And again, like I said, with a few others on this list, I probably would like to take one for a drive, assuming I can fit in it. It is a legend and an icon, but it is dreadfully underpowered and slow. That is the PLP50. It's a bit sad though, because it's missing its brother, the Trident, which we've lost. Might come back later on, but yep. Welcome to the slowest car in the game. Yep, we're still going on the lap. So, speaking of still going, I thought I'll show you to prove I did it. Colossus with the PLP50 did just over 40 minutes. I got for a full chapter of the book I was listening to though. God, this thing is slow. Alright, so we have it. That is the top 10 slowest cars in Forza Horizon 6 with, of course, we all knew it was going to be answered was the PLP50. Awesome little cool car, but my God, it's slow and torturous to drive, especially on a Colossus. Oh, I could never do that again. No way I'm doing that on Goliath. That can go to hell. Yep, so I doubt very much they'll be bringing in any other cars in DLC or festival playlists, which would be slower than PLP50, so this will pretty much always be the slowest car in game, but who knows, maybe they'll surprise us and find us some random little thing that some Japanese guy made, chuck in the game. It'd be pretty cool if they did that actually. We need more Japanese cars in this game. We're set in Japan, Playground Games. Alright, so until the next one, thank you for watching. I know it's a long one, I'm sorry, I probably should have used a smaller track, but that was very torturous. Well, it was kind of good fun. Hope you enjoyed. See you later.